I'm open.
I'm open. Sam
open.
headset today.
Yeah, I'm trying it out.
Honestly,
All right. All right.
Does it sound worse or the same?
It's fine.
Okay.
Headset sounds a little tinnier and a little more like high-endy, and then the other one sounds like bassier and a little more full, but you get more background noise.
Yeah. I'll just do
the
this.
headset does sound like you're like on a plane giving like you're the pilot saying like radio tower. This is Captain Sam Butler speaking.
Okay.
But it's
Yeah,
definitely less background noise.
Little pilot vibes, but it's cool. It's fine. It's not that bad.
All right. We'll try it out. But yeah, we're recording as the central final game is about to start.
Indeed.
It should be on now, shouldn't it? It's not started.
It's not started. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. You guys want to talk about the stream last night and some of the games and our dump situation?
Yeah, we should dump a little bit. Last night was crazy. I mean, it was crazy for me, and I didn't even leave my bedroom the entire night. But I mean,
yeah, I haven't had time to like go watch the whole games yet. You want to like just shorthand like what was the vibes like in the Soul Flyers game and the Empire Breeze game?
Vibes were in the Soul Flyers game. It was like the Soul went down in the first quarter, and then that was the game, and I just kind of knew it the whole time. They made it a little interesting in the end, like maybe, but I don't know. Flyers kind of had that one the whole way, it felt like.
Yeah, for sure.
And then what was the other game? You were at the Shred game, Shred Summit. Empire Breeze, I tuned in a little bit more closely, like more towards the fourth quarter. But the Breeze had like a huge comeback. They were down by 4. Yeah, they were down
like 7
by
to
4.
11 or something.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, this game's over. And then in the fourth quarter, they came back, and I didn't pay too close of attention, honestly. Like, the most I tuned in was like the last 2 points, where it felt like the Breeze got pulled to, they were down. They were down 1, or it was tied. It was tied.
Yeah,
No.
It was tied.
No, they were down 1, and then they scored really quickly, and then the Empire won it on the buzzer beater. Yeah. I guess it didn't matter if I think they should have milked. They had 43 seconds. I think you have to like be last possession. Do something like in basketball where they just like, milk it for one shot,
Right.
It just felt like they just kind of rushed it. They gave the Empire way too much time. Maybe they didn't want it to go to overtime. I mean, it would have had to go. They would have had to. It's either you trust your offense to send it to overtime, or you trust your defense to send it to overtime. And what in the AUDL, what would you rather do?
Right.
Anyway, we have our first
coach
guest.
Number 1.
Coach number 1, Anthony Nuñez. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Welcome to the pod.
Good.
Welcome.
Good. Well, thanks. I'm happy to be here. This is exciting because since I started seeing your posts on social media, I actually have watched every single one of your tier podcasts.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, I mean, you give a very interesting perspective on things. On top of that, you're the right kind of trolling, which is like just trolling enough. And you're also like learning about the league as you go, which is an awesome perspective to see. And you're honest about it, which is the other thing. Like most people come in and be like, oh, I'm an expert. But like you all were like, yeah, our friend joined the league and now we are this giant like hype machine that's learning about it. So I truly appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's very generous. We had Pavel Giannis on, and he was like, "You guys are idiots." And we were like, "Yeah, sorry, Pavel."
Well, he thinks everybody's an idiot. So
yeah. Oh, I mean, to everyone else is an idiot. To him, probably he's just so smart. But no, he was awesome. He was super nice, and he gave us 2 hours of his time, and yeah, Pavel was awesome. But yeah, it's we really appreciate that you tune in and listen, and we truly like have been learning about the league as we go, honestly. I mean, that's a good way to put it. And it's been fun, and we kind of accidentally got roped into it. It feels like we just got sucked in, and it's such a good product, and the games are so fun to watch. And, we already have a little bit of an Ultimate background. So, we don't need the rules explained to us per se. So we already have like some base knowledge, but
Right.
it's been fun.
I will.
Now, did you all play in high school as well as college, or did you just play in college? Because I know most of you were Tulane alum, right?
Yes.
Yeah, us three are the Tulane guys. Andrew and I both played in high school in the DC area, but Andrew played YCC and I didn't. But
Okay.
I had no high school experience. I came into college as a fish and just kind of soaked it all up.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's really cool. I mostly coached high school. I did obviously club, college, pro in both leagues that existed at one point. And yeah, I mean, high school is always a little small piece of my heart, but I also love the fact that in college a lot of people just start picking it up and falling into this this love affair of a sport that only a select few people heard of, and like it just started to blow up recently. So
yeah,
super cool.
Yeah, I think college is always interesting because going into it, there's a bunch of people who are athletes who maybe played a varsity sport in high school but have never heard of Ultimate, and you just know
Sure.
you really want to get those guys at the activities fair or whatever and put a disc in their hands and hope that they are interested enough to keep playing. And I think that happens a lot. People come in freshman year and that's what happened to Everest, I think. I don't know. Did Everest play any sports in high school?
No, he
actually?
never played sports. He was on
He
like
didn't
the
even play
robotics
sports.
team.
Yeah.
He swam a little.
Yeah. But our buddy Everest, who joined the Aviators this year, yeah, he didn't even play. He didn't even play sports in high school, but he was always just super tall and just an athlete in general. And he just kind of showed up and fell in love with it. Now he plays professionally. So,
yeah. That's a similar thing that happened to Colin Messina on the Phoenix, where he kind of picked up in like at Penn State, and he just kind of was like, oh, I don't, kind of want to try this sport, because he's never really, I don't think he did any sports really in high school much, and if he did, it wasn't like anything that he was like super into. And then all of a sudden, each year he just got better and better. And now I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league for sure, especially on defense. So
wow. And his teammate on Philly, James Pollard, came on and he told us, I think he went to college on a tennis scholarship. Was that?
Yeah.
Am I right? Yeah. And he just kind of played Ultimate on the side and just kind of fell in love with it then. And I guess he did tennis throughout college, but then when he was out of college, he was like, I gotta keep playing Ultimate. So yeah, college does seem to be like a really big kind of formative I don't know. It's really cool that it seems like it's really big in college and a gateway for a lot of players. It seems like, but more and more we're getting youth Ultimate. And I think that's really exciting to see. I mean, I came from an area where I was really lucky to have it in high school, and there was some youth Ultimate, but I think it's super cool to see kids showing up to college already knowing how to throw a flick. And you see that more and more now too, which is also cool.
Well, Tulane has 3 of my all-time favorites that I've ever coached. So
right.
Yeah. So it's those 3 are quite the characters down there.
Yeah, the
for
real
sure.
reason...
Actually, I guess 4, because Katz played for Tulane too, right?
Yeah.
Jesse Katz?
Yeah.
The real reason we brought you on is to have a discussion about Charlie Smith, if we're being honest.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, you actually have both his Devil YCC coaches on, with having both me and Charlie Hoppus.
Let's start right into it.
Also, hi, I'm Charlie.
Hi, Charlie.
It's good to meet you. Thanks for joining the
welcome.
podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, we are super happy to have both of you and get a new perspective. First coaches that we've had the pleasure of interviewing.
Yeah,
right on. We did it.
Oscar and Yacht, you were like, yeah, we're gonna be talking to Charlie soon, and they were like, Oh, damn, guys! Like, come on. We can be
They were not stoked.
we can be fun, I guess. No, they thought I naturally I confronted Oscar about it. He was just like, "No, we said nice things. We said that you're like earnest." I was like, "Sick."
Yeah,
Seems like the vibe of this podcast. So that sounds good.
Yeah.
yeah. Charlie is the fun coach, just so you know.
Cool.
Yeah, he's the outgoing, witty, fun guy who is all over social media and is quite the personality. And I'm just, I guess, what did we decide, Charlie? I'm just Nuñez coach.
Yeah, Nunez and I had we were coaching together on Phantom last year, and there was good cop bad cop situation.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, and we had another assistant who's like Kirsten Mailer, and she's like really intense, really fiery, and so she was bad cop. I was good cop, and Nuñez was just Nuñez cop. Pretty clearly defined roles for us. You all had a really busy day yesterday, right?
Yeah, we had a
Where were all y'all?
Well, me and Andrew were right where we are right now, just live streaming with Cam Brock, and then Ryan was kicking it at the Summit game on the field, pretty much doing what Joe was doing at the Empire game, but in Colorado.
Yeah, it was. I had a pretty sick night last night. Honestly, just want to say a shout out to the Summit. Like, they kind of really just brought me in as one of their own, like from warm-ups to like, at post game at the bar, like hanging out. Like, Ryan Siegel gave me this championship game shirt, which is pretty sick.
Nice.
Hell of a night. We posted some stuff on socials, on Instagram, some reels. But yeah, I was just hyping up the crowd, hyping up the players, dapping everyone up. Got a pretty good look at some J Fruit backhands, another cut throws. It was a pretty sick night. And
that's
cool.
Do you think they're gonna give you like at baseball games, the people that come out and stand on top of the dugout and they're like, yeah, like they're trying to hype up the crowd and like selling shirts? Like, I feel like I see that in your future, Ryan. But
awesome. Yeah,
not like a mascot per se, but like
No, like hot dog cannon operator is what
exactly.
I'm down to just do whatever for them next year. But yeah, this upcoming Friday I'll be at championship weekend, and we already got confirmation from Matt Stevens that he's hooking me up with a press pass for that. So some more shenanigans will be going on.
Is he using my press pass or his press pass?
I don't know, some kind of pass. Yeah,
the one that I made, I spent a lot of time on, so hopefully he gives it to you.
That was beautiful.
Oh yeah. That's
yeah. Someone in post can put it up. Our editor, aka probably Sam. I don't know. I think enough about us. I want to learn more about the two of you, and just kind of formally, we ask all of our guests to come on and just like give us your quick elevator pitch. Your career in Ultimate and coaching, and how you got where you are now.
I'll let you go first.
No, age before beauty. That's all you.
Yeah, but most people think you're older than me, so.
Yeah, but I'm prettier than you, so it's still.
Oof. I don't know. This scrub is nice. This scrub's a good look. I know. Well, that's like I decided to do the playoff beard too late. I shaved it after YCCs, and I was like, why did I do that? I've got another playoff game in like a week. What am I doing? All right. I'll give you a little bit about myself. So obviously, I currently coach the Empire, but prior to that, I started playing in middle school in the like mid to late 90s, down at Columbia High School, which is the despite what Tina Booth says, it's the birthplace of Ultimate.
Does Tina Booth say otherwise?
She says Amherst. There's a big argument, but we like to rag on one another. We have a plaque that says it, so obviously we're in charge.
There you go.
But I mean, I was born in Livingston, New Jersey, but that doesn't mean that that's my birthplace. I was raised really in Maplewood, so. But yeah, so I started out there, played for the Columbia High School team, was the captain of the team for sophomore year through senior year, I guess. And then as soon as I graduated, I started coaching the CHS team because I went to school locally at William Patterson. Coached in states and youth nationals and all that other stuff with CHS. Then after another Tulane alum, Evan Walter, graduated from high school, I left CHS to go and coach at Rutgers. So I coached there for a while, and that's when I started coaching in the now defunct MLU for the New York Rumble, which I refer to as the dark days of my coaching life.
Hold on, I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you all know what Major League Ultimate is?
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Okay,
Kinda.
I didn't know. I don't know the institutional knowledge of
Yeah, that's a
Mhm.
good point. The MLU was started the year after the AUDL had just started.
Right.
And it was like one of these things where an owner from the AUDL was like unhappy with how the AUDL was going and was like, I'm starting my own league, and did like a really great job on the first year for sure.
Right.
And then like each year with the I guess the business model and everything else, it just started getting harder and harder
Mhm.
to maintain. And eventually, just as they hired Charlie to be a head coach for the Spinners, decided to fold. So it was either my trip to San Francisco with the Rumble or Charlie getting hired for the Spinners that the league decided we should probably fold.
Yeah,
Right now.
I was the head coach of the Spinners for 3 weeks in November.
You did it.
Huge.
There's
Wow.
I asked because there's there was a couple kids on Phantom, the the men's team in Philadelphia that had no idea what Major League Ultimate was.
That's interesting. I was aware of it because let's see, I remember being in high school and there was the DC Current, I believe was the DC team. Yeah. And I remember people, there was talk about them. I mean, there was some big deal, like, Del Rico Johnson, I think, was playing on them at the time, and he was like getting on Sports Center. So I was loosely aware of it. And then after it had folded, I think, or like maybe when it was about to fold, my high school actually made Frisbee a varsity sport. But the people who were in charge of making, the decisions about how that would work, I don't think really knew anything about Frisbee. So they ordered a bunch of discs, like bulk order, and they were all like Pulsar discs. And everyone was pissed. So yeah, that's my extent of my knowledge of the MLU. But
yeah, I want to say the Current used to play some games at my high school actually. So
oh, nice.
Yeah, I was familiar just from like literally seeing them outside of my school.
So are any of you Will Smolinski like products, or is that too?
I know the name, but no.
Okay, so he used to coach YHB for a while, and he was the current coach, and he was the truck stop coach for a while.
Gotcha.
We randomly went to college together and didn't know that either one of us played Ultimate until we eventually saw each other at a college tournament.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because my college didn't have a team. So like I picked up with Rutgers and played with them, and he picked up with Drew University in New Jersey and played with them. And we had no idea that the two of us played Ultimate until we got to a tournament and he was playing against us. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this is just weird. Like, you literally live next door to me in the dorms. Why are you, what did you mean you played Ultimate? But yeah, so so I coached Rutgers, coached the MLU, started working in the Westfield School District where Katz and Henry went, and that's where I started coaching with the legend Ryan Boline. And I guess somewhere in between there, 2007 I started Devil. I was a co-founder of Devil, which is now blown up to like full nonprofit. group. So I coached Devil for a while. Well, I guess since 2007. And then I started coaching with my now closest friend Charlie on Patrol / Phantom. And it's been a fun and interesting relationship ever since, because we keep finding ways to coach together. And not to make Charlie blush or anything like that, but if I ever find the right person to get married, obviously Charlie has turned into somebody who I worked with now, like a groomsman possibility. And it all started with him just sending me a message saying, "Hey, can I give you a call to talk about Ultimate?" And us getting on the phone together.
Yeah, this is a good time to say that we're both single, and I assume that your target audience seems to be 30-year-old single women.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So we should be,
I see why you were so eager to come on in the first place. I hate to inform you, you might be in the wrong place, but what do I know?
Oh man.
But yeah, so that's kind of my life in a nutshell. I played a little bit of like mixed Ultimate for club. I was trying out for Pike back in the day when they were really good, which was like what so it was a top notch like New Jersey / Philly team that took like third in the nation at club nationals back in like 2004 2005. You all were probably born right around that time, so that works out. And yeah, so that's my life. And Charlie is going to blow it away because he's got such much more fun and interesting things in his life.
Oh, well, it'll certainly be quicker. I picked up Ultimate in college, like a lot of people do. I was running cross country, and all the fun practices for college cross country were Frisbee. And then I found out there was a Frisbee team where all they practiced was Ultimate Frisbee, and so I quit cross country and joined the team. I coached some high school. I coached at Messiah College for 9 years, which is a D3 team. D3 represent. Shout out Mike Ball. I sort of just like stumbled into an assistant coaching gig with the Philadelphia Phoenix. Daryl Stanley and I actually were assistants together. Now the head coach of the Breeze.
Oh wow.
And from there, I was, the first coach that Patrol ever had, with shockingly underqualified amounts of experience, and just sort of like, tried to hold on as best as I could as the team, did well, and learned how to coach from that. So I was also an assistant for the Spinners for some time, and then now coaching Empire.
Right on. Well, yeah, that was a little bit more brief. So, but
I've been around a lot longer, like life-wise. So
you had more to say.
Yeah,
and we're this is a long form type of media content, so we welcome.
We're storytellers.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I'm kind of ready to just kind of start getting into AUDL talk. You're both coaching the Empire. When you approach a season, just kind of on the macro level, what kinds of things are you talking about? What are your goals for the season? How do you prepare for a season? And then I guess, yeah, we'll just start with that. Yeah, I want to talk big picture.
Yeah, our first season, we're coming out of the pandemic, and I don't know that we were on the short list of being hired by the Empire. I think they had some other options lined up, and those people ended up being unavailable. And so, with a month to go before the season, we got hired, and it's been a couple of years since anyone's played any Ultimate, and the people we had coached, Nuñez had coached more because of his time coaching Devil and Columbia and Westfield. But I'd only coached one or two kids, and then everyone's in masks. So it's like, good luck even like recognizing people, right? So, last year's team, like candidly, we didn't have a big long off-season plan. We were trying to get to know the team, and we really only got a chance to start really coaching maybe 4 weeks into the season. We were really feeling out the squad and the personality and the culture that already existed. This off season, in different story, we spent some time talking about things we wanted to see out of culture, on a team that's as talented as the Empire. Stuff like that really matters. And we've got a lot of guys that are extremely hard workers, are extremely smart ultimate people, and just like extremely competitive and just want to win. And so I think, whether you're talking culture or on-field stuff, you look at what already exists and the resources that you have, and you try to build something that makes sense with what's there. You don't want to, as a coach, it'd be sort of silly to come in and say, hey, this is my system, this is the culture that I want. It's like not how it works, right? And so getting a season with the guys and then an off season to plan, I think really put us and the whole team in a much better spot this year, just because we had an opportunity to plan anything.
Mm-hmm. I guess something I'm curious about, listening to you talk, I guess I'm wondering about roster construction, and like, to what extent do you two have a say in roster construction versus you just show up to the first practice and you're like, all right, here's the team we got. I'm curious about that.
I think Nuñez, chime in here, but I think the Empire is at least somewhat unique in that Matt Stevens is like a real like personnel oriented general manager. And he's got a great ultimate mind, and has a good idea of how things fit together. And so I think a lot of the big picture signings, that's all Matt, that's all the Empire management. Nuñez and I have a lot of say in how the rest of the team is constructed around them, and we're really proud of the depth that we have this year. It's a huge difference between this year's team and last year's team, and really a lot of the teams around the league. But yeah, and that's all the splashy signings and all the amazing brand name players that are incredible people to have around as players and people. Yeah, that's Empire management.
Yeah, so I would like to add that, like, in my opinion, Matt Stevens is possibly one of the best like ultimate GMs out there, and it's because he finds not only talented players but players who will fit in with the culture of the team. And the Stevens family as a whole has created this amazing family atmosphere, not just like a business atmosphere. They take care of every single one of their personnel, whether it's the coaches, the players, the like staff at the events, etc. They treat them all like they're a member of the Stevens family, and they find players who are bought into that culture for sure. And they always have a talk with the player before they sign him, and they say like, hey, like, here is what this team means to us, and what are you willing to, like, how much are you willing to dedicate to this team? And if it's not a good fit, both parties leave with like okay, it just wasn't the right fit for this team. And yeah, Charlie and I do have a say in a lot of things. But we go into tryouts knowing that there's like a bulk of the roster already re-signed, or add-ons, like the flashy names like Charlie said. Like Antoine was an addition that like Matt was just like, this is the person I know would fit perfectly for our team. I'm going for it. And that was great. But then we have like the younger players who are come out to tryouts, like for example, a Chris McLaughlin, who Charlie and I have known for a long time as a player. And we were like, this is the kind of kid who has a bright future. And Matt looks at it and takes our suggestion and just goes with it, which is also a great thing to be able to have that back and forth with Matt.
What's it like having the general manager of the team also be a key player on the field?
It's something that could be like a sloppy dynamic, right? Because, you know, as general manager, like he's our boss, and then we're coaches, and then as a player, we're his boss, right? And it's just extremely easy with Matt. He is a pragmatic, thoughtful person, and he's able to really compartmentalize those things easily and nicely. And it's not, you know, it's just not even something, honestly, that I've really thought about after, you know, the first month of working with the Empire. If I'm talking to Matt the player, he knows that. If I'm talking to Matt the GM, he knows that. And we can even have that exist in the same conversation even, and it's not he's great to work with. He's great to work with.
What you see from Matt on the field is kind of the same way it is with him as like a person that we work with. He is a very egoless player and just is like that, whatever the team needs me to do, I'm going to do kind of thing. And that's exactly how it is working with him as a general manager. He's fantastic.
I guess something else I'm kind of wondering, we early on in the podcast, we leaned heavily on statistics to, you know, find things to talk about. And then I think as we watched more games, we were kind of like, man, you know, these can be really deceptive, and maybe it's just more, you know, worthwhile to just watch the game and kind of go off of what we saw. But as coaches, when you're preparing for a matchup or just the season, to what extent do you use statistics, and if any, what do you use? What's interesting to you?
I'll let Nuñez answer this, but I love that like a like fan podcast like this exists. I think that it's great for the league. I think it's like really, and you see it from all the people that want to like be on y'all's show and talk to y'all. And I mean, Swing Pass, I love Swing Pass. Like I love all the different podcasts out there. But you know, having it from y'all's perspective where you're just like really into it and like really want to like learn all you can and form opinions on what you know. I had a Orioles podcast, and you know, I didn't know anything about, you know, I'd look at Baseball Reference, you know, at 5 o'clock for, you know, starting the show at 5:15 or something, and then go on the air, and then it would get, you know, 3,000 downloads. Just people just want to hear other fans talk, and other people that like care a lot, and have opinions that they've formed well through watching and through stats and just caring and following the league. People want to hear what other people like them think, and it's great. I've really enjoyed listening to y'all. So anyway, Nuñez, go ahead.
Yeah. So for stats and all this other stuff, we have a lot of programmers on the team who also are stats junkies, and we have had, I think, was it 2 or 3 people who have made different like apps that track stats and do different things for us.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like mind-blowing how into it they got. And then I fall into that rabbit hole sometimes at my my real work during lunchtime, of course, if my boss is listening to this.
Your boss is
like,
a loyal listener to Ringer the
yeah, you'd be surprised. Yeah, he once I started telling him that I was coaching Ultimate, he started listening to everything and anything that has to do with the AUDL. including he told me he was watching like 2 teams on FS2 that had nothing to do with Empire, and he was like, I was just listening just to see if they even mentioned Empire, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. But anyway, yeah, so I mean, like, there's stuff where we look at like trends, what kind of different things can we see from a team, that I don't want to tip our hands to a little too much, but like what we're seeing from that team. And what Oscar said about stats, I completely agree with that. The basic of stats are not a measure of what a player is really capable of or what they do. But when you go into, like, it's almost like for what is it for baseball, the per, like that is much more of a telling thing, or an on-base percentage is a much bigger thing than, like, let's say, how many home runs somebody hits or how many RBI somebody has. And that's an important thing to have, is not just stats, but like fully detailed stats. Like that throwing yards and receiving yards, when that came into play, was like a really awesome stat to have. But it also, who cares how many, like, that somebody has like 1,000 negative yards, like that just means that they're possessing the disc and they're just moving it. So yeah, I mean, there's certain stats that we do lean on a little bit to try to give us some information, but overall, like, like I said before, I don't really care how many goals or an assist somebody has. I care more about where they're throwing their turnovers multiple times, or where the disc is going to land from whatever side they're on, or backwards, or if they're going to just auto dump all the time, etc. So
interesting. I guess I don't want to pry too much if there's stuff you guys don't want to share, but do you have anything on like defensive stats? Any ideas or anything that you've been using? Because I think obviously there's offensive stats. I do think they're flawed in a lot of ways, but there's almost nothing in terms of defense, for us to work with.
I think if somebody just had a ton of time, and it's just like not possible because of just bandwidth, but I think an interesting stat that is like achievable to you could find out if you wanted to, is sort of like all the stuff against, all the offensive stuff against, right? Receiving against, passing against, all that sort of thing. So, I did a sort of like a lame version of this for Marquez earlier in the season. I was campaigning that he get more recognition as a handler defender, and I did it by basically saying, hey, these are the people that Marquez was the primary defender on, and they all had their worst game of the season for like the first 4 or 5 weeks statistically. And was Marquez the only person guarding them? No, it was lazy of me. It was it's like not good stats, right? But that's like where we are defensively, and that's not even good, right? Like, how many times do you maybe your person gets it, but you stop to continue somewhere else, obviously, on our team, Ben Katz comes to mind. He gets a lot of really fun blocks where he just sort of like seems to appear out of nowhere, and he's just like, 5'9" guy, just like clap catching it out of like, where did you appear from? But so many more than that, he just like stops the flow or disrupts the offense, and then the offense has to reset and start from zero, and everybody on our defense gets to orbit and get in the right position, and then somebody else 2 throws later, because they're kind of stuck, gets a block. That's not showing up for Cats anywhere. Like, even if we did the stats I just suggested, but it's just, we're so far away from being able to measure that. And honestly, even when we do, fans aren't gonna care. It's a lot like, I don't follow the NFL as much as I used to, but Aaron Donald is putting up, according to every advanced metric, just historically great numbers, right? He's changing games in the ways that only like quarterbacks typically can. and just nobody fucking cares. Nobody cares. He's a defensive guy, like the diehard fans are into it, but he's not, an MVP front runner. So I don't know. Hard to measure in terms of like usefulness. And I don't know that, again, unless you're a stat nerd, you're gonna care as a fan anyway,
Yeah, Ryan, you're a Summit fan, right?
I am, yeah.
So do you know about Smash Stats?
Like Joe Smash?
Yeah, so Joe played on Rumble for me, right?
Okay.
And one of the things that people don't realize is that Joe was at one point probably the best defender in the country, hands down, right? And he basically, we had this thing called Smash Stats, which is when he's guarding somebody, the disc doesn't go to them, right? Because they knew that if it did go to him, either A, he would just block it, or B, like the person was just too covered because Smash was on them. And those Smash Stats, you can't actually get that from any of the statistics that's out there, right? Like, how do we know that person was too covered to be thrown to? You just don't, unless you watch every single game and you just look at it. That's the eye test, I guess. But how we deemed it that was we were playing against Boston, and he was covering Jeff Graham, who now plays on the Glory, a younger Jeff Graham. I can say younger because he was still older, but
yeah, how are these people still around?
Yeah, exactly.
They're still awesome. They're still awesome.
Jeff is my age.
They were old then, yeah. Like, what are we doing?
But like Jeff was like an MVP candidate for the league, etc. And like he just wasn't getting thrown to because Joe was on him. And at the end of the point, Joe just yells out, "They're not throwing to him because I am covering him, and that is called Smash Stats, everyone," and just throws up the peace signs and walks off the field. Joe is the king of New York for sure, and like we miss him for quite a bit. But I also like he is like those stats don't show what kind of a defender he was or is. And it's the same thing with, as Charlie was saying, for Marquez, right? Like, how many times did somebody look at their guy and just say, "I can't throw to this person because Marquez is on them," and or Katz, who's just like, "Hey, I'm in the vicinity. You don't want to throw to me. I'm covering three people in a ton of space. Don't put it into this area because I'm going to get it." And they're like, "Okay, well, we're going to reverse the field." So until we can come up with some sort of stat that's like no touches because of this defender on them, we really won't be able to know how big of a defender somebody is.
Yeah, and a lot of, not to yes and it, but a lot of Marquez's impact is on the mark. These people that are excellent huckers or excellent mark breakers are just swinging the disc or throwing hucks that are like just a little bit shittier than they ordinarily would be, and then somebody else is getting a block. Marquez is touching none of those, but all of a sudden somebody who throws for 300 yards a game is throwing for 120 yards a game and going 1 for 4 on hucks. It's just like game after game that happens, and it's at some point it's like where there's smoke there's fire. Like Marquez is good at defense well beyond the blocks that he gets, right? And
right.
Yeah, so
I bet Marquez would be great on the pod if you guys want to reach out to him. I mean, not that busy, right?
Might give us a little boost.
Just a little bit.
You probably could just reach out to him via social media, and if you tag him, then on top of that, be ready for the amount of followers that you get, because they'll just assume that you know him.
Yeah, you don't need our help. You all are bringing in everybody. So
what I will say, I'm glad that you guys brought up Marquez, because I did want to ask about his matchup against Johnny Malks yesterday. And I was surprised tuning in. I hadn't watched a ton of Empire games. Like I loosely would watch some of the games this season. Has Marquez kind of always been your handler defender guy? Because he's a typical, when you look at him, you're like, this guy's playing deep in the zone, he, just with his length and the highlights I've seen of him, he's roofing people. So I was surprised to see him in the handler space. When did that come about? When did you guys decide that that's what you wanted? And yeah, I'm just curious to hear more about that, I guess.
Charlie, can I take this one?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So Marquez is one of the most versatile defenders you'll ever see. He can cover people downfield on defense. He's got amazing vertical, obviously great length, has a strong mark. Where he shines the most is the fact that he is a ridiculously smart human being. And he can completely understands like, hey, if I take up this space, I can get this kind of block. And he surprisingly, Marquez has been like that since he was like a junior in high school. Where he just all of a sudden comes up with these like highlight reel plays, and the rest of the time he's just doing all of the right things. And what we notice is that he is, because of his length and because of his Kawhi Leonard like capabilities on defense, he really can gum up those like main handlers slash initiators who are around the disc a lot, and he can just really use that mark to make it frustrating for them to get the easy throw. And on top of that, like I said, similar to Joe, if you're throwing into his space, he has the abilities to get that block if he needs to. So yeah, it was a combination of that.
We tinkered with it a little bit last year, and then coming into this year was just always the plan, like having somebody like that in addition to all the stuff that he does in the backfield. And just like a quick example of what Nuñez said, early in the season we had Toronto, and Luke Kamire was just coming off of just one of those fireball performances where he threw for whatever, it felt like 1,000 yards, and he was leading the league in passing at the time and all this stuff. And we sent him the highlight reel and was like, this is your matchup, like watch this guy. And during warmups for the game, we sort of checked in and asked like, so like, what did you see when you're watching tape? And he's just like, whatever it was, I think it was his around backhand or something. He's just like, he has a tell, and literally the first point of the game gets a hand block on the around backhand, just like studies it, and then has the athletic, is intelligent, like Nuñez said, and then has the athletic ability to just like, just do it, which is really impressive. But, when he's guarding, handlers or even initiators, like you said, a lot of his highlights are him, the world's highlight of Marquez is him jumping over those poor Buzz Bullets guys.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, just like ruthlessly roofing them. And he, guarding some of these initiators and handlers, everybody goes up line sometime, and then once they're upfield, it's hard to get around somebody that's that quick and long. And so you tend to just stay upfield. And at some point, you try to take the space if you're a smart player, you try to take the space that's being given to you by the defender. The only problem is now the defender's Marquez, and he's faster than you, can jump way higher than you because you're like a poor O-line handler. And then you get roofed or lay out deep by Marquez in the deep space when you should have been, working in the reset space. So he's a great player. He's a great player.
Do you think having Ben Yacht on switching over the D line gives you more freedom to have Marquez in the handler space? Did that kind of go hand in hand, or?
The big thing that opened it up was Antoine. Last year's team, we had, last year's D1 was really strong players, but the only elite deep defender was Jeff Babbitt. And the Dross brothers, number 1 and 2 in blocks in the history of the league. They're excellent. They're solid in the deep space, but they're not deep defenders, right? And Marquez certainly can play deep defense, but again is so valuable closer to the disc. And then Katz was on that line, and Josue Aloro, who's an elite lockdown defender in the reset space and in the initiation space. And adding Antoine, so this awesome line, we generated the fewest turnovers per point in the whole league last year. I know which is a wild stat to think about. We made it to the championship game, generating fewer turns. Your tier list, like all those teams, the mechanics tier, right? Like every tier, Empire last, and made it to the championship game, played, an excellent game in the championship game. But you saw it in that game, like we couldn't take the disc from, Carolina, and we couldn't take the disc from many teams that we couldn't take the disc from Pittsburgh, so we weren't going to take it from Carolina. And adding Antoine as somebody who can, he's an elite initiator defender, he's an elite deep defender, and it opens up everything. Everyone can bump down a slot into something that they are not just like an okay defender, they are also elite in that spot. And so yeah, I think that was the big thing, was Antoine. Antoine changed a lot for our defense.
Yeah. Ryan, you should definitely try to do like Guillermo from like if you feel up to it, that's definitely the way to go, is just
like
during championship weekend
and just have fun with it.
Yeah, asking like Babbitt if he washes his legs, that sort of stuff. It's
I wanted Joe to go to the Empire game and like ask everyone like, where's Brody Smith? I'm looking for Brody Smith. Like, who are you? Like, yeah, I want to hear more from Joe about where, like, what it was like, because I wasn't there, or like he was a little preoccupied. Ryan, you were sending his videos the whole time, so I feel like I knew what your night was like. But and plus, on top of that, the game being streamed 2 hours later, so I super like didn't get a up to the moment experience on the game.
Yeah, we were. So
I did like the quick video of like us setting up stuff, I guess, or whatever, and he's just like, spoiler alert, like here's what the live stream is actually looking like.
Yeah. And I was telling this to Sam yesterday when we were streaming, like there's some element of like, I think it's pretty crazy that they're not streaming live. Probably I think that was the best game of the year up until this point, first of all, but not even knowing how the game is going to play out. This is a big playoff game. Why can't we watch this live? But that said, like I was telling Sam, maybe there's something to like Ultimate trying to compete with like a primetime slot. And then if they re-air it, like I know I've been just like late night, I'm flipping through the channels, and there's like drone racing on FS2. And I never would have watched that at like 7:00 because I have other things to do with my life that are better than watching drone racing. But here I am, it's 10:30 and I'm watching a re-air of like, I find myself doing this. So maybe Ultimate, maybe it's like planned out in some way, but I don't know. I feel like we need more. We need the big games to be live streamed, but what do I know?
Definitely a lot above my pay grade, but live sports, it's like you can't replicate it.
Yeah.
My people reach out to Fox and let them know.
Yeah,
cool.
Would love
At
that.
the very least, like they're all big boys. They can stay up till 9:30 and then play the game. So just make them wait.
Honestly, that would be fine. I would rather do that. Just start the game at 9:30 and do it live.
Yeah. I guess something I kind of wanted to pivot back to in terms of like coaching strategy. Obviously the AUDL has a clock, and I think with coaching in non-AUDL leagues or like in college, I think there is some level of clock management because there's like a hard cap, and let's say you take the lead in the second half and maybe you want to call a timeout or something. But I think you have a lot more control over the outcome of the game with the clock. So how do you approach like clock management? What are your goals going into a game? What's kind of the strategy to around clock management?
It's really fun, and it's really important, right? Like, take the game last night. pivotal moment for sure is at the end of the third. We're working it up and we're, maybe 15 yards out. We're just outside of the red zone, and there is 10 seconds left, or just under 10 seconds left. And if we score there, we go into the fourth quarter up 3. If we don't score there, even, we go up 2. And instead we turn it over, and DC throws up a prayer, and they come down with it, right? And so just like thinking about, how quickly teams score, the way that you want your team to run the clock, which is always extremely risky because the defenses you're playing are good. I know, it's a big field, but doesn't mean that you'll score like at the exact second that you want to. That's pretty hard. If we could do that, that'd be great. Oh, Joe, joining the pod.
Welcome, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
How you guys all doing?
Hi, Joe.
How's the
Way to
drive?
not say hi, by the way, Joe.
I know. I looked for you after the game. I couldn't find you.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably the one surrounded by all those loving and adoring fans, or for whatever player was standing next to me.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because the media pass only gets you so far.
Oh, you mean this media pass?
Whoops, my bad.
Yeah, the coolest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Joe, you rudely interrupted Charlie as he was talking about clock management. So maybe we let him finish that thought.
No,
you're good, Joe.
It's super important, and I mean, like, you see it in basketball, right? You have at the end of quarters, you see 2-for-1 opportunities, and you take a shot that is perhaps a little bit lower percentage, but it's worth it if you get to both take that lower percentage shot and get the ball at the end. It's just worth more points statistically, like over enough time. And it's harder because we're much more like, the NFL and football, in that our schedules are so condensed that you can't moneyball it like baseball or even basketball, where, just like, oh yeah, layups and threes, this is just going to work over an 82 game season. Like that's not a thing that can happen. And, as good as we can lose any time. And, last night was a really good reminder of that, right? It's like DC is excellent and played an excellent game, and, took us to a buzzer beater attempt in a game that we were up 5 midway through the third. And that's that's sports, and that's what happens when there's not a lot of data points, right? And so you try to both not moneyball it, because it is such a like moment to moment kind of sport, and there's so few games, but at the same time, you want to put your team into positions to succeed. And yeah, sometimes that's running the clock on offense, sometimes that's trying to generate more possessions in a game. That's a whole other thing. If you've got an excellent offense, you want the scores to be in the 20s for both teams. You want there to be more possessions, because your team's going to keep holding, right? And if the other team, even if they're pretty good, they're not. And so sometimes you roll it more, or maybe you play more aggressively on defense and have the other team try to score more. So there's just a million things that factor into it when you think about the clock and how that changes things. Last night, part of the reason why that game is so close is how few possessions, right? And DC's got an excellent offense, and they can hold right with us in a game that has that few possessions. I think most teams remaining in the playoffs can certainly have games that they can keep pace if the points are that low. So it's not just end of quarter; it's whole game management. It's this whole thing. It's fun to think about. Yeah.
I was thinking,
hearing
when you were
about
talking about Moneyball, I feel like there's one stat specifically, like when we've had Cam Brock on and Oscar on, they always talk about turnovers. Like if your team turns over the disc way less, like that is the most important thing. we all know just inherently hucks like have a lower completion percentage as every other throw on the field, just because there's so many more variables to take into account. You know, when turnovers are like that's really defines wins and losses. How do you two as coaches like teach your players like, okay, in this situation, throw the huck. In this situation, like how do you teach that like, you know, throwing decision? Or is that or are these players at such a high level that they kind of like, you know, they know at this point?
Sorry to double up, Nuñez. Let me
Yeah, no, go for it.
keep rolling. I think that throwing aggression is really important, right? I think that if you are too conservative a thrower for the role that you have on the field, you can be actively a detriment and cause turnovers. I think we were just talking about Katz earlier, how he can jump in lanes, stop flow. It lets our defense get set, and then they have to reinitiate from a standstill, right? And then blocks can come again, right? Like it's easier to get Ds when the offense has to start from nothing. Well, we can, as an offense, inadvertently put ourselves into positions where we're starting from nothing again, right? If we're not aggressive enough with our throws. So like, you know, there are no, you know, as excellent as some of these players are at breaking the mark or hucking or whatever it is, there are no 100% shots on these, you know, these throws that are such high difficulty. They are calculated risks. And, you know, it's important to, even if you're somebody who is very conservative, let's say you're, you know, you're catching a swing and your mark is, you know, you're catching a swing coming from the flick side onto the backhand side, and your mark's bearing down on you trying to seal it, but you have somebody coming in. The safe thing to do is just pump fake it, right? But if you get that throw off, now we're flowing down the break side, right? It could lead to a scoring opportunity. So let's say that, you know, you're going to complete that pass 9 out of 10 times. And the 10th time, the guy, you know, fucks you up because he gets his hand up or he gets a piece of it or whatever as a turn. But if that's going to lead to a scoring opportunity, that's great. If you're throwing 9 out of 10 completions on your resets, that's terrible, right? So it's sort of the more likely it is to lead to something good, preferably a goal, but something that could lead to a goal. Sort of the more risk is acceptable, and is to some degree like important, right? And you know, Oscar made the point that you know, on the big field, I think those windows are bigger, so the risk is lower, and there's no need to throw a turnover ever. And he's not wrong. But you know, at the same time, you know, all these throws are unless you're just like isolation in cut again and again to the four side, just cooking your guys downfield, which happens, you know, maybe once or twice a game. There's somebody's got to make a challenging throw, and they have to be good at it, and they have to assess risk.
So the only thing that I would add to that is just that a lot of these players do define these roles early on in their ultimate careers by the time they get to Empire. And there is a like everybody, what we talk about is a lot of like being within your role as a thrower and making your decisions. So like we know that, you know, certain people are going to make that shot or take that shot, where the other ones we're going to be like, hey, you know, like we know that your highest percentage is probably the like around flick to get it to the reset handler so that we can swing it over and get it to another person who's going to be able to just put it into the deep space and abuse their matchups. So it's a lot of defining the roles and talking it out with the players and making sure they understand like, hey, you know, what is your role on the field? This is it. And this is what we're looking for from you as a thrower. So it's a combination of what Charlie said and also like what their skill sets are and what allows us to work with.
That's right. That's definitely right.
Apologies if any of my questions have already been asked, but kind of similar to this, how much does it help you guys in your system to have like 5, maybe even 6 people on the field who can handle. And so like, because I definitely noticed there were times in the game yesterday where there would be like every single player within kind of 20 yards, and it was just kind of flipping sides of the field like every other throw, and people were moving up into the handler position and out really fluidly.
Yeah, I think DC did an excellent job. I think anytime, especially in the AUDL, it's not just line up against this person, go get blocks. You want to try to make them do plan offensively, do plan C and D as often as possible, get them away from plans A and even plan B, especially a team like DC. They're almost better at counterattacking than they are at attacking. You take something in the way and they're like, oh great, like thank you for giving us this other thing. And they're just so good at that. But I think the goal then when you're building any sort of defense is to put people in the positions that they are uncomfortable in, relative to there's not a lot of positions Jack Williams is uncomfortable in, but like as much as you can, you want to try to put him in the positions that are the most uncomfortable for him. And they pushed Oscar out a fair amount, and that sort of made him have to choose between finishing and like straight up handling. Right? They pushed Charles Weinberg out a lot, and obviously both those players are excellent goal scorers as well. But their bread and butter is working under. And it's so easy to say that you're going to do that. And it's so hard to make it happen. And that was part of their success last night. And, I'm not giving anything away by telling the rest of the league, like, yeah, probably push Ryan Osgar, who's 21 for 22 on Hucks going into last night, push him away from the disc, like, duh, but yeah, I think it's helpful. That said, like knowing that teams are going to try to push you into those uncomfortable spots, the better you are at adapting to that, the safer plan CDE is, and the more if you're able to comfortably hold and do the things that good offenses do, even way down your list of what you wished was happening. That's a great offense, and we have the capacity to do that every time out. It's one of the things that makes us so dangerous.
Right. And the other thing is, like, on this size of a field, fluidity within positions is even more clutch than any other, like, than club or college, because it's a smaller field. So having a larger field and having people who can fill into spots, and DC does this really well as well, from watching them last night, which is they have a lot of players who can slide into either the cutting role or slide into the handler role and be able to fill in and keep the disc moving and not seem stagnant when the offense is coming in. And that all comes in with like these players who now, especially with the big boom with youth and college, where we're getting these super athletic people who can throw, it makes it that much easier to maintain an offense like that. And the thing that it used to be when like I was playing, and I'm sure even when Charlie started playing, was like you had the athletes and then you had the throwers.
Yeah.
And now you have the athletic throwers, which is almost everybody who's on the field. Everybody's a hybrid now whenever you ask them. And it makes offense look a whole lot easier because of it.
That's some really great insight. And something I feel like I've always been pushing us back to talking about defense. So I'm glad we kind of took a little detour. But I do want to ask about the kind of sideline roller pull strategy. What's the motivation behind it? And do you think it's effective? And on top of that, yesterday, it seemed like Austin tried it multiple times in a row. Do you agree with that? What do you think their thought process was? But yeah, I just want to hear your thoughts on the roller pull kind of strategy.
Yeah, I mean that speaks to, again, Oscar's point of the field is gigantic and you can't cover all of it. But if you roll the disc out at, let's say, midfield, first off, there are some spots of the field that are no longer realistically attainable, right? You're not going to throw, most of us are not going to throw over, 2 6-foot plus people a 50-yard hammer to the other sideline. So like at some point, like the far sideline is not realistically attainable. And because you are closer to the end zone, you can't realistically huck it, at least not in the way that you can on the full field. And so if you're playing a team like Carolina that just has a trillion weapons and unbelievably talented throwers and great finishers and all this stuff, it's hard to guard them for 80 yards. It's, to Oscar's point, maybe impossible. And so, you try to find, either, over the course of a point, you try to put people again into positions that are uncomfortable toward the sideline or with people getting the disc in spots that they don't want to. But the sideline roller is, it's a shortcut to that. That they're not going to be able to huck it. That they're not going to be able to throw it all the way across the field. That you're going to get 2 6-foot guys with really long arms on the double team. And do they still have, they also know that their best thrower is going to have it, so there's again, some risk there. But if you don't think that you can guard a team the length of the field again and again and again, and no team can, it makes sense to roll it in. It's something, this is not unique to Pro Ultimate at all. The Buzz Bullets and a lot of Japanese teams, they're not stacked with 6'5" athletes, with Jimmy Mickles flick huck. And so, they do different things to shorten the field and remove the huck as an option, because if they wanted, like, the last world games or a couple world games ago, it's Bo Kittredge just running deep past, these 5'10" defenders. And so, at one point they ran a no mark zone that let them walk it literally past midfield before they even put a mark on. It was just open people, and they had to complete uncontested throws for like 30 yards of the best players in the world. But then, like, you can sit underneath. If they huck and they manage to drop a blade just into the right spot, God bless them. But, they're not going to be able to just outrun you and outjump you then, So using the back, to sum up, using the back line as a defender and a context point allows you to really tee off on underneaths. You can't get all the way to the other side of the field in a consistent way, especially because, on our team, it's Jeff or Antoine or somebody that can jump or is fast or both. And that's on every team, right? Is waiting for the hammer that hangs a little too long. So, when defense is hard, you try to find ways that it's hard for them to execute one specific thing,
This is also not unique to pro. Like when I was like just starting out coaching, you would see Ironside doing it, and like Christian Foster was like the king of pulling it and rolling it so that it goes to the sideline, and then all of a sudden you have this like trap zone around you, or because it's really difficult to get a disc off of the sideline when there's like a group of people surrounding you. And it's also a like high risk but like a high reward possibility when you're on defense and you're giving them this short field, especially like for teams that are known for like hucks and throwing deep, which is it shortens it, not only shortens the field, but it also makes it really difficult for them to complete a deep pass. Like a lot of people would have to dump it back and then try to take their shot, and that positioning is not easy to get.
There was one road poll. I think it was either like the one in the third quarter or the first one in the fourth that only went like 20, 30 yards. Was that purposeful, like maybe clock management, or was that just a roller poll that didn't go far enough?
Yeah, I mean, the further it depends on what you want out of it, right? If you roll it to midfield, that's like sort of the common one. If you roll it shorter, there's even less deep space, right? So you can like camp out on unders like no other. You know, you might not even need a deep because there's just out of bounds as your deep, you know, which means that people can shift in and maybe guard the backfield and all this stuff. On the longer ones, obviously, like if you can, the tough thing is getting down there fast enough, but if you can get down there, and now you've got the other sideline. You know, a lot of the ways that teams get out of the double team is either the little dishy through, the big crossfield hammer, or they throw like the mega dump, right? Now there's no mega dump space, right? We have the sideline going the other way. So using those sorts of things, no, I'd like to think it's all intentional, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And then I also had another question about defense. Do you guys, at least in the game yesterday, do you guys teach or like tell your team to ramp up pressure close to like the Breeze's end zone? Because the Breeze had a few turnovers that were pretty close to you guys scoring, and you only need like one or two throws to get it in. Is that something you guys practice, or was that just like turnovers from the Breeze that were, you know, not an extra effort from you guys, but just good defense?
Well, I mean, we practice all different types of scenarios quite a bit, and we go over end zone almost every practice, both offensively and defensively, and different looks that we want to see defensively for every type of end zone offense. And there's at least like 35 to 40 different end zone offenses that you could probably run, and it's not a like if you see this, do this, but it is a like, hey, at this point we need to pressure at the 30-yard line and up. And so like, yeah, a lot of the defenses you're seeing are just us running that end zone in practice quite a bit. Like we do at least, what would you say, Charlie, like 20 minutes each practice just working on end zone?
Yeah. And again, because of the size of the field, I mean, you have every bit of offense and defense, the context matters, right? So again, like in the red zone, you know, this happens in the NFL too, right? There's teams that are like their quarterback throws for like whatever 350 yards every game, and they, you know, score 14 points because they like sputter out in the red zone, and you know, it happens all the time. And you know, I think not having that deep space means that you can play defense in a different, more aggressive way. And aggressive doesn't necessarily mean, you know, lockdown person defense. It can mean aggressively taking spaces that are the ones that the offense wants, right? And you know, I think that that's a strength of ours, because you know, we've got these excellent, thoughtful, intelligent players that then, like Nuñez said, we practice it essentially every practice, in the practice plan, every single practice, and every so often something runs long, and it gets the axe. But you know, we want to run, and you know, I think we're scoring. We had a couple red zone turns last night, but we're scoring almost 90% of our own red zone attempts. It's because it matters a lot. You know, you're only going to score, you know, a couple different ways. Very rarely are you just like in cut, goal. Like that's not really a thing that really happens. And so, you know, you score on a huck, you score on a huck that's not quite in, and then you're sort of like dishing and trying to get it in, or you like work it into the red zone and then you score in your red zone offense. It's the most common way of scoring by a lot. And so like, you know, it's really important to put an emphasis on it both offensively and defensively.
Sure. But I actually meant when the Breeze would pick up the disc with 80 yards to go after a pull or after maybe a huck that was turned, because the Breeze had a couple turnovers.
You let us talk for like 3 or 4 minutes about not your question at all.
It was still interesting to hear. I wanted to let you guys go. But I did mean like on the other side of the field, like, do you guys take more risks maybe because the downside isn't you just got scored on. It's like, oh, they just completed it for 15 yards. We still have a defense out there. Because the Breeze did turn it over a couple times pretty close to their own end zone. So you guys could pick it up and score kind of easily from those turns.
Yeah, so we do several different looks when it's a deep throw that's turned, or when they are deep in the end zone that we're attacking. Sometimes in that there is tightness, and then there's also, we try to do some loose stuff that way we can like do some clock management with our defense as well. Then we have several different looks for what we want to see when the disc is in specific sections of the end zone or in that like 70-yard range. And then as they move up, we make quick adjustments into different areas. So,
but even that's
yes.
like, that's even still, it's not like, all right, guys, they're here. So like now we do this defense. It's again, it's the context of what the threats are, and each team that's different, right? Like if Nethercut's on the field, like we need, if we're like, at the brick, we need to start worrying about him throwing a goal, and
right.
So it's different for every team, and we just try to prepare our team for what they want, and then again, where they are in the field, the context matters because of sidelines basically, and using that as extra defenders.
Charlie, we can just give him the actual strategy. Joe, what we do is we just tell Ben Katz, go get a block, and then he gets it for us, and we say, cool, you did it. Nice job.
I don't tell Ben Katz shit. Whatever Ben Katz wants to do, he's allowed to do every time. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say in that vein, like, well, that play on the last throw with the Benyat buzzer beater, what was the play? Just throw it to the tall guy, because that's kind of seemed what it seemed to be.
No, but I don't want to talk about it. It's not like some secret thing. At the end of the day, it was like a good thrower throwing it towards the tall guys. But yeah, there's some nuance to it.
Okay, all right. I won't divulge too much. But to the lay person, it did seem a little bit like, I mean, you put your players in position to make plays, and Benyat definitely did. So, and it was exciting on top of that. But I think now that you've made championship weekend, what do you see as kind of your path to winning the whole thing? What needs to go right for you guys? What's kind of that path to success look like?
So we need to our offensive efficiency was obviously very good this year. Our defensive break opportunities and efficiency, we need to increase that percentage to a higher percent, especially if we're taking we've got these four teams, these three other teams are good teams. They're athletic. Each one has a different persona. And what we need to do is we need to take every opportunity that they give us, especially if we're playing, let's say, like Carolina's a possession-oriented offense. So if they give us the disc, if we give it back, then there's nothing that says that we will get it back again. Where maybe some other teams may throw a few more turnovers, and we would just need to make sure that we break every opportunity that we get with that. And that's the path right there, is like our defense's offense needs to be efficient and also successful.
I think this is, maybe more of a macro answer, but a lot of the work for, if we win, why we're going to win, has been done by the players, obviously we're going to have matchups and game plans for whoever we see, and those will be unique to those teams. But, we've got some of the very best players in the world on our team, and no one treats playing on the Empire like they're on a all-star team. Everybody treats it like they're trying to be the best team that's ever been. And that is really like so easy to say and so hard to do. But, you know, our group me is just chock full of guys 1 through 31 that are putting in the work every day, throwing, working out, doing stairs, like seeing our trainer, doing all this stuff to make sure that they're ready. And that's just the physical stuff, you know, to say nothing of when you're on a team like this, there's a Nuñez. What's the Phil Jackson quote? The danger of we, or the poison of we, or something, or
it's the poison of we.
Yeah, and it's basically, you know, when you're on a team that's this good, at some point, like the really good players that are, you know, would be MVP candidates if they played somewhere else and aren't MVP candidates because they play with us. It's human nature to want to just like, I'm as good or better than these other guys on my team that are getting recognition. Like, what about me? Where's my bigger role? Where's my, you know, opportunity to shoot? Where's my O-line or, you know, D-line? Jeff loves D-line. We asked him to play O. Like, he wishes he could play D. And, you know, these guys are just sacrificing. And you know, that's the stars, you know, to say nothing of, you know, these guys who we have. Everybody on our first D-line, except for John Randolph, has played a full season on an O-line in the AUDL before. And as you might imagine, John Randolph would fit in on every
Actually,
O-line.
I think John played some O-line for Seattle when he was in high school.
He didn't play a full season.
Yeah.
And then on our second D-line, you know, we've got both Dross brothers have played a full season on O-lines. Matt Stevens is 4th leading goal scorer in the history of the league. And, you know, there's guys, I'm sure, that like wish that they could, of that group and maybe beyond, that wish they could play O. I haven't heard anything about that all season. There's guys that, you know, we have some excellent players that were playing on our first D-line earlier in the season, or as people were missing or whatever, that weren't rostered for this playoff game. And, you know, that hurts. And they were there and they were great teammates, you know, the most energy, taking water to guys, first ones out, giving high fives. It's rare to have a team like that. And it's, you know, if we win a championship, it's, yeah, maybe we'll have like some cool magic secret thing that's going to help us beat the teams in front of us, but probably it's those other things, right, where those players have sacrificed for each other and put in the work. And I know that's like so coach speaky, but it's real. It's what it is. That's
the secret to our success. Really is actually eggs, beans, and creatine.
We know about that.
Heard, yep.
I got on the record confirmation about the eggs and beans for breakfast yesterday.
I should have asked Nethercut last night what his breakfast or his daily food routine is. That's my bad.
We should ask that more.
Is he also eggs and beans?
No, but I'm sure it's something interesting.
Something crazy.
Yeah.
What about you guys? What are your breakfasts?
I have the same breakfast every day. I have 2 eggs over easy on 2 pieces of rye toast. That is my breakfast literally every day.
Boom. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
What about you, Charlie?
I'm a go to the diner at 11:45 p.m. and order steak and eggs and hash browns, and then sleep through my alarm the next day.
Sounds great.
Nice.
With the occasional hidden Pop-Tart.
I'm not a great adult. I'm not very good at
You still got time to figure it out. Don't worry about it.
Do you want to hear the story of when Charlie and I realized that we were meant to be together?
Yes.
Hold on. Is this fried chicken story?
No. When we were meant to be together, I said, not when I was actually horrified for your help. So the first tournament that I coach with Patrol is US Open, and Charlie and I drive up together, spend several hours in the car going to the US Open. But the next morning we wake up and we go to the fields. Obviously I can't have my eggs and rye toast or whatever. and we both pulled out those like fruit pies, like those little mini fruit pies that are glazed.
Gas
And we
station.
just, yeah, gas station fruit pies. And we just looked at each other and we were like, all right, yeah, this is gonna work. And basically like cheers to it and
It's
ate our
just
pies
poison.
happily.
It's like straight poison.
Those things are gnarly.
They're very bad for you. Yeah, they're terrible for you.
Oh, they're horrible for you, but yet somehow, some way, they have some sort of fruit in them
They
that
also
made it
don't.
healthy in our heads.
They also don't taste good. Like there's no reason to get them. Like they're bad and taste bad. Like,
But yet here we are, Charlie,
no.
several years later.
Well,
Can I actually ask you guys a question?
We would love
Please.
that.
Of course.
Yes.
Okay, so I really want to know what rules would you like, a rule that doesn't exist in the AUDL right now that you all would love to see as fans?
Andrew Lewis, you
Yeah.
want to go with the obvious?
I will
answer?
take the lead. Yeah, I was toying with this idea earlier, and I wrote a little article about it, and I actually got some interest from some AUDL part owners. Said this sounds like kind of a cool idea. It's not super original. I think implementing like a 2-point line in some form could be interesting. Maybe not a 2-point line, maybe like a 1.5 point line. I don't know if like, you know, maybe there's a sweet spot of like the value you could award to it. Maybe it's not for the entire game. Maybe it only comes in like end of quarter situations. I don't know, but I think that having some sort of comeback mechanic would be really interesting, and it would make a lot of those games that are maybe like a 3-point game that seem a lot more insurmountable suddenly become like those are still close games down to the wire. And I think that makes for a better like entertainment product. But I don't know, what would you guys like think about that?
I was thinking, sorry.
Okay. No, go ahead.
No, please.
I love the idea of the 2-point line. I'm also terrified of like a person like Nethercut having a 2-point line.
Yeah.
But I also could see it like back in the day, there was a thing called Rock and Jock basketball, which MTV had like all these random non-basketball players and like one basketball player. And they had like a hoop that came down that was worth like 50 points. Or they had like the 10-point 3-point shot. And like I would love a 2-pointer, but only either A, like at a certain point in the game that it's acceptable, or maybe even like a like, yo, we're gonna pick up this disc, the 2-point disc for this point, and like whoever scores it gets the 2-pointer. And maybe limiting the amount of times that you could actually do it or use it. If you do it the entire game, it kind of loses that kind of like fun appeal to it. And it's also creates more of a strategy to use it. But I do love the concept of the 2-point disc.
Actually,
really cool.
Your suggestion I hadn't even considered, but yeah, that might be interesting. Instead of I don't know how I feel about having it for the whole game, but if you get both teams and they get like once per half, like a 2-point thing, you know, that could be interesting.
Money ball disc, like this.
Yeah. Like in the 3-point
like,
challenge.
if the other team breaks you, they get 2 points.
Ooh.
It would be like that point, right? You would call it on O-line, but if you get broken, the other team gets 2 points.
Yeah,
that's what
I was thinking. It should be like the FIFA mystery ball, if anyone's familiar, where like essentially some of this would be impossible, but like when you have the ball, it makes your character go like way faster, or it gives like a boost to your shooting. So it's like you shoot
Sam, we can do that. We can get that.
But also what it does, it like multiplies how many goals it's worth, like, and then it just like randomly changes throughout the game. But yeah.
It'd be great if they had like an AUDL representative come out with like a briefcase and open it up and there's a golden disc at one point.
It's a handcuff to them too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
What are some other? Oh, go ahead, Charlie.
I just real quick, I totally agree that there needs to be a comeback mechanic.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to steal anyone, so I'm just going to jump in here real quick. I know this question was not for me. Sorry, Nuñez.
No, it's okay. Well, you and I have talked way too much about this, so I have a feeling I know which one you're going to come with.
Yeah, I mean, this is not my idea at all. This is just something that existed in the MLU. It's two rules that are both really simple and don't feel very gimmicky. They exist in the one exists in other sports. Really, they both exist in other sports. The first one is Callahan's. If you get a Callahan, you receive the next pull.
Ooh.
That's an
Love
easy
that.
one, right? Like it's like
Yep.
a safety. It's like a safety in football, right? You get the points and you get the ball.
Yeah.
So simple. We should implement that next year.
There's no reason to not do it. Like there's no reason.
Yeah.
And Callahans are so rare. It would
They're
be like
so rare.
But
so,
the second one is where Charlie's going with, and I loved this one.
so this is so how do you make it like you can't like plan your whole defense to get Callahan so that you can come back in a game. But they had a thing where in the MLU you could take if you took your timeout when you were about to pull, if you took a timeout between points, it's like in the NBA advancing the ball, right? So instead of pulling from full field, you pulled from midfield. And the rules dictate that the offense still has to be on the front line. And so, what would happen is these like aggressive blades that like drop over the offense's head. They can't field it. And then it rolls out the back. And the defense is like up on you and you have to basically tap it in from your own back line. So you can take timeouts instead of using timeouts to put your O-line on to try to get break opportunities. You'd have to decide whether you wanted to do that or if you wanted to save them for a comeback attempt in which you are, trying to get Callahan's and rolling it out the back and having them have to work it 20 yards out of their own end zone before they can even really play offense.
Yeah.
I love
So where
that.
this worked best was the fact that the MLU went from 2 timeouts per half to 4 timeouts, and 2 of the timeouts, if you were going to do the 50-yard line between points, it was only like a 10-second or 15-second timeout. So that it was just like, hey, refs, we're going to be pulling from the half field. We're calling this timeout. So that way it doesn't kill like the length of the game. It doesn't extend the length of the game. And it really worked for Rumble 3 times. I think we got Callahan's from our half field pulls. And like if you think Marquez is a really good like full field puller, he is ridiculous as a half field puller.
Rifling blades in there. Yeah.
Yeah, he was getting it in the back corner almost every single time. It was amazing to see. And it's one of my favorite rules from the MLU.
We
That's
can
awesome.
We'll petition for that like all summer or all off season long. But
Nice.
Yeah, right? Like
sure.
the league needs you need to have a way of coming back, like you were saying. And
Yeah.
that's
It's
a way.
It's not just the comeback though. It's like injecting a little more parity into the defense because
Yeah.
I think right now the advantage is just so overwhelmingly to the offense in the league. And then it's also more Callahan's. So who's like mad about that? So,
Right, exactly. It's a fan favorite for sure.
I also had a couple rules I've been thinking about, but that are kind of along the same lines. The first was like some kind of onside pull. I don't know exactly how it would work yet, but just like some kind of way to score and then pull it and get it back. That one doesn't have a ton of depth to it. It's just like a general idea, and I want someone else to figure it out. And the other one is more similar to the 2-point line, but it's like having like a backcourt violation either at the 50 or having multiple of them along the field where once you pass, you can't go back behind it. And then it's kind of like you get an extra sideline.
Oh, I like that.
That is really cool. I love that.
I really do love that.
that would make
That's what we're talking about. If like something is out of bounds all of a sudden, like it changes the way everyone gets to play defense. It gives the defense a piece of context to play in. Oh, that's good. That's really
a
good.
good
I
idea.
like it.
And that would
nice
make
one.
roller polls like way more effective.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Make them too effective. Because you couldn't do the super dump anymore to get around it. That'd be crazy.
And
You
if
have
you're
to go up.
pressed,
That's
if you're
cool.
pressed up long it, getting it around is almost impossible there too.
But then why wouldn't you just do the roller pull every time? And do I want to watch that many offenses start on the sideline? I don't know.
It needs to be tweaked. Maybe like in under 2 minutes, like the offsides comes into effect or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's also to say like you're assuming every single one is going to be perfect. And like, because if you throw it an extra couple yards, then now you have 50 yards behind you can use too.
Yeah, but even if you throw it 10 yards ahead, which all these throwers could throw 10 yards ahead, like they'll all take a 10-yard end zone, you know.
Maybe it's not on the 50-yard line. Maybe it's like further back or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a good idea. It needs workshopping. It's a good idea.
It's a great idea.
There is sort of an onside pole. It's a drop pole. And you can basically like put the disc really anywhere. This is for any pole, but when you pull it and it lands in bounds, the offense only has 10 seconds to put it in play. That's true of any turnover, any pole ever in Ultimate. That's even, I think, true for club. And then if they don't do it, the stall starts. And so what teams sometimes do if they're trailing is they will drop a pole, and the other team's O-line has to sprint 80 yards in under 17 seconds, or they get stalled, right? And they have to complete a pass in under 17 seconds, and they're sprinting for 11 of those seconds and not exactly organized or anything. Obviously super high risk, high reward, but if you're losing, you know, it's like fouling in basketball, right? If you're losing and they score quick, whatever, you're back on offense, you know? So it kind of exists. I don't think it's.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was at the Summit Portland game, and the Nitro was so sneaky about it because I'm in the stands, we're watching, Summit's up like, I don't know, like 6 or so, and we're all whatever. And then all of a sudden, like, they just like blow the whistle and it's Nitro's disc, and like Summit haven't even like ran down, and everyone's like so confused. And then we just see the Summit the Nitro have the disc, and we're like, wait, they didn't even like huck it. And like, I guess like nobody in the Summit noticed that they just dropped the pole.
Yeah.
Is this was this with Nitro legend Chunmoy?
Noah Chunmoy, baby.
Noah Chunmoy?
Not sure. It was like one of the last games of this regular season, so like 5 weeks ago or something.
It was that game, yeah.
Okay.
There's a guy who played Empire last year who signed a basically a weekend contract with the Nitro, and then threw for like, I don't know, like 1,300 yards in 2 games or something.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right on.
I think we've taken up close to 2 hours of you guys' time. So I think we're going to wrap up pretty soon. But we love answering questions. Do you guys have any final questions for us?
Do they have to be ultimate questions?
No, literally anything. I mean, we've been talking about TV shows in the DMs, if you want to get into that for a little bit.
I mean, I could talk TV for forever.
We'll just have you guys come back on in the off season. We literally won't even talk about Frisbee.
TV show tier list.
Oh my God. If we talk about TV shows and movies, it would be my favorite podcast ever.
Literally
make it happen.
Yeah, we will do it.
Especially if we talk about sports movies, like all the fun, obscure sports movies. You all would have to do a lot of like boning up on it, but like that's one of my favorite topics because I've watched every sports movie, no matter how bad it is.
We could do a sports movie draft. That'd be great.
Oh, that's
great. Draft.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
That would be sick.
All right, my question for y'all is, and this is not an original question, but it's something that I think about probably every week. If you could, we'll give it movies or TV shows. You get to keep one member of the cast, and then everybody else in the cast, it's the same exact movie, it's acted the same way, it's shot the same way, same plot, same everything. You get to keep one member of the cast, everybody else is replaced by the Muppets. What movie do you got, and who are you keeping?
I feel like it's very open-ended, but I feel like there's a right or a wrong answer here.
I've got mine.
No, it's very open-ended. There is no right or wrong answer.
Because I'll be disappointed if I don't think of something hilarious.
I'm going to go with A Marriage Story. I'm going to keep Adam Driver and have him just like going through this insanely emotional divorce with Muppets, and then everyone around him's Muppets, and he's like going insane.
Oh,
I
I
feel
love
like
it.
that would turn into like a psychological, like, is he sane
Is
kind
it
of movie.
is it with Piggy, or do you have a different Muppet in mind?
It's probably got to be Piggy. I think
Yeah,
that'd
it's got to be
funniest,
Piggy,
yeah.
right? That's pretty good. That's very good.
Okay. I've thought of mine. It's Saving Private Ryan, and the opening scene. The opening scene is like, the dude with like his organs. It's just a Muppet, and there's just like stuffing. You can keep whoever you want. I think it'd be funny if you saw it through like Kermit's eyes. So maybe Kermit plays Tom Hanks, and then I don't know. It doesn't matter who the one human is.
Incredible.
Just have
Make
like
it
one
Private
dead
Ryan.
body.
He's like in the movie for like he's in the movie for like whatever 20 minutes.
Yeah,
It'll be him. the whole movie is just Muppets.
I had a similar idea. I'm going with Kill Bill.
That's
And
a good one.
Uma Thurman just is like slaughtering Muppets left and right.
That's one of my favorites. It's incredible to think about.
Oh man, you guys have all such good answers, and I'm drawing a blank. I keep thinking of movies, and I'm like, nah, that's not that funny. That's not that good.
It is that
Because you
funny
only
that
watch
like
Marvel
But
movies.
it can be also a TV show though.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, you can also do a TV show if you want.
Oh man,
I seriously do think about this.
you think about this every
Yeah.
week?
I think about this all-
yeah, he thinks about this way too much. And I never told him mine, but mine would be Breaking Bad.
Ooh, yeah.
Who you keep?
I'm keeping Jesse. And then everybody else. Everybody else
Okay,
is a Muppet.
okay. I got mine. Mine would be Harold and Kumar go to White Castle, and I'm keeping Neil Patrick Harris, and like the whole thing is actually just him like high on shrooms the whole time.
That is very good.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is Walt Beaker?
Oh, yo,
Obviously.
Who's the
No,
Swedish
Bunsen.
chef?
No, it's Bunsen is Walt. And then the Swedish chef would probably be that's
Gus?
a good question. Yeah, probably Gus. Yeah,
He'd be a
no.
little bit less
Sam the
menacing.
Eagle. No, it'd be Sam the Eagle as Gus.
Yeah, that's
No,
true.
Sam the Eagle would be the DEA agent uncle.
Oh, that's also a good one. Like that. Yeah.
I was thinking like also any Gordon Ramsay cooking show would be funny if it was. If
Oh
Gordon
my
Ramsay
God.
was just like screaming at Muppets. Terrible
Screaming,
food.
I mean, that's just actually, I think, a concept for the Muppet Show with the Swedish chef just getting yelled at by Gordon Ramsay.
The low hanging fruit for this is like any mystery movie or any heist movie. It's like incredible. Like just any, and you can keep anyone and it's still incredible. So like, Knives Out, keeping the main detective, LeBlanc or whatever would be incredible. He's like trying to solve it, and like all around him are just these fucking like Muppets, like stymieing him at every turn.
I can't wait for our pop culture podcast to come in this offseason. Stay tuned.
Any of the Ocean's movies, keep anyone. It doesn't matter. It's like whoever you keep makes it funny in a different way,
Yeah.
Or you could do the reverse Labyrinth, where everybody who's a Muppet is a person and everybody who's a person is a Muppet for Labyrinth.
I don't think Labyrinth is probably way before their time. Yes,
I would apply that to the season 4 episode of Community where they're all puppets.
Oh yeah,
because I hated that episode.
I don't live anywhere near New York, and so these are the sorts of things that I think about on my multi-time drive.
Oh god,
that's amazing. I'm gonna be staying up all night trying to think of other movies. That's amazing.
Yeah,
I can't wait for our graphics team to put some memes together on this.
Yeah, graphics team.
Ooh,
Love that.
I know that this has already run long, but Ultimate Team, where you keep one player and the rest of the players are Muppets, and they're trying to will the team of Muppets to victory against other AUDL teams.
I'll take Jeff Babbitt.
Is it like what team?
All the Muppets and then Babbitt.
And he's so pissed at all of them. He is so annoyed the whole time. He's miserable.
He's run out of blood to drink.
I saw Pavel in the huddle during this game, and he's just like, quarterbacking everybody. I think if it's Pavel and he's like just got the Muppets, I think he would actually be pretty successful. I think he could.
That
I
was
think
my
he could
thought,
lead
too.
those. I think he could lead those Muppets to some victories.
He'd be dribbling for sure with the Muppets.
Yeah, he would be.
Well, hey, thanks for having us, y'all. This was
Yeah, this
thanks
is
for
a lot of
coming
fun.
on.
Thanks for coming on. It's been
Thank
Thank
awesome.
you so much.
Yeah.
I was
Usually
gonna say, Joe, did you get a new microphone? Because that looks a lot more professional than anything I've ever used for anything.
I've had this one, but I actually have for the longest time just been holding it like this, and like I don't really know why I didn't just set it up, because it like looks better and I think the sound quality is probably better, but I've just been like holding it for forever.
It's had a stand this whole time.
This whole time it had a stand, and I just been holding it.
Well,
Why?
I just ruined everybody's world now.
The mic that I use, we don't do any free ads. I guess you can maybe tell what type of mic it is, but like the thing's falling off. I got this for my 12th birthday. And it's just a USB mic, and it's like indestructible. And I know I'm like emotionally attached to it at this point, but it gets the job done. And maybe I will never get another mic. We'll see. I'll probably not get a new mic until like, I don't know, maybe one day we get some like I said, like ball deodorant company to like send us microphones or something. So
I think I had that exact mic when I was podcasting.
yeah, it's great.
Nice.
Gets the job done.
It sure does. Well, anyway, thanks for having us, y'all.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, so Chicago's gonna move on.
yeah. It's
they're
looking like
currently up 5, I think.
Looks
or
like 15 out of 16 of our calls this weekend were correct.
Yeah. Alu got one exactly right.
That's awesome.
Sure did.
Ooh,
He got the
Yeah.
Flyers game exactly right.
oh,
And
that's
then-
Let's
sick.
go, baby. Before we wrap it up, like Joe, do we want to like do a quick dump on last night?
Yeah,
Please
all
tell
right.
us about it.
I can dump real quick. It was so sick. So I get Matt Stevens huge shout out. Thank you so much for giving me this press pass and tickets. Told me with the press pass I got to be on the field after the game, or on the field from like 2 hours to 1 hour before the game, but I couldn't get there 2 hours before the game, so I got there like 15 minutes before the game. Walked up to the I guess will call or whatever, the people taking tickets, and told him my name, and he handed me this press pass that I guess backwards says Ringer the AUDL. And
No, that actually
was
was on my screen.
Oh, well then hell yeah. It says Ringer the AUDL, and that's like the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. Like that it just said our name. Like looking at that when they first handed it to me was like so crazy.
That's awesome.
And then I mean the game itself was like insane. The Breeze I kind of thought were out of it in the third quarter, but then they ended the third quarter with a couple scores, and then the sideline was so hype. I was sitting like right behind their bench, and they were going crazy, especially because they got that like quick turn and score on the buzzer at the end of the third. They were feeling really hype, and they cut it down to 3. And I don't know, honestly, like I think they were lucky to be in it, because they got chances to break early that they just could. They went 0 for 4 to start, and then they went 1 for 5 on their 5th one. But their 4th quarter D was good. They honestly, there were a lot of turns on both sides. New York really slowed down after. I think they only had 3 in the 1st quarter, but they just looked a little bit sloppy with it. And they really slowed down on the turns up until the 4th quarter. But it was really fun. It was really fun to be there sitting on the sidelines. And then for a while I was taking pictures like kind of right next to the field. So I got some cool pictures. I got the Malk spike, which I think is
That's awesome.
Very sick. But yeah, it was exciting. I wanted to talk about the stall call in the game. When DC had a chance to tie it, like originally, Rowan had it on the sideline, and you heard, first of all, you heard the back ref call it, and we were all like, that felt quick. And then you hear Rowan go, that was not fucking 7. and like screaming at the ref and like holding up like 4 fingers and the being like, are you serious with that? Did you really just call that? And the ref in the back being like, yeah, I called it. And then New York scored. And so instead of a potential tie game, we have New York up 2. And then later, apparently he was saying like the ref closest to him who he could hear counting hadn't said 5 yet, and the back ref called it. And so that's a huge call. I don't really know. It felt quick to me. I don't know if it was like really at 4 though. I talked to Oscar after the game, asked him what he thought about it, and he was like, I don't know, but also like it was going on and they had a timeout, and I don't know why they didn't just call timeout. So I don't know. It was probably a quick call. It probably wasn't like actually at 4, but like it was a huge turn of events because DC got a turn and they were, I guess they called timeout and put out their O-line. And we're looking like they might be able to tie it with like 3 minutes left. And like, who knows what's going to happen then, but then they were down by 2. It was kind of devastating, but they still came back and tied it in like a very insane way, but they left 17 seconds left. And I don't know, I guess honestly they probably gave up the best shot they wanted, like a 30-40 yard, just like huge shot with a ton of people underneath, and like a Hail Mary is going to happen, so like that's kind of what you want. They kind of, I don't know, they just got unlucky, but they looked good in the 4th quarter. And then afterwards, after the game, it was, I'm not gonna lie, a little bit intimidating to be on the field as a reporter for the first time, because most people don't know who I am. So like I would just go and talk to the people who I did know, and then other people I was near and I would talk to. So I could talk to Ryan, and actually Ryan offered to do the jersey swap before I even could. So nice. we got that That's picture awesome. In. I put on his sweaty jersey.
That is so gross. How sweaty was it? Just tell.
He played a full game in it, but not like he needs to be checked out for the amount of sweat on it. Normal amount of sweat.
All right.
But for a guy who just played an AUDL game, so like it was sweaty.
In August.
Yeah. So yeah, that was good. I got to talk to him. I got to talk to Ben. I forgot to wish him a happy birthday. I felt really bad about that afterwards. I got to talk to Matt Stevens for a while, and his mom, who like owns it and is a big part of like running the team. And I asked her some questions because she just like was really interesting, and I think she thought I was like interviewing her on the record, because all of her answers were really political, and like I was really just trying to chat with her, and like I wouldn't have even talked about her answers on here, but I just thought like I think she thought I was like trying to interview her when I like really wasn't.
The press
like,
pass, man.
Just happy to be in Madison. I think we've got a good team, and so that was cool. It's cool to talk to both of them and get John Randolph. He confirmed half a carton of eggs and half a can of black beans, scrambles it all up together every day. I asked him what his budget is for cans of black beans, and he was like, I don't know. If you buy them in bulk, it's pretty cheap.
I was gonna say like probably Costco is the way to go.
I asked where he gets his beans from. I asked if he has a Costco membership or anything. He says no, just the grocery store.
Oh,
so
interesting.
as bulk as he can get in the grocery store. Confirmation from that. And Lepler had a conversation with me and asked me. He was like, "What was your name again?" So he asked me my name, and
you forgot your name.
Yeah. Or he might not have ever known my name in the first place. I may have just not ever told it to him and just been like, Lepler, take a picture with me, you remember Ryan?
Fair,
yeah,
but we
I can see that.
We talked for a good like 5 minutes. He was great. He was telling me about commentating he's going to do and about championship weekend, and he was like, I hear they're catering some food, but I don't know if I'm going to stay here or like go grab a beer and watch the end of the Summit Shred game. So sounds like Lepler can chill. And in the end, I think he stayed for the food, because I also stayed for the food. And there was only like 15 people there when I left. everybody was gone. I was still just chatting with people because I got this press pass. It was crazy. It was so cool. It was really fun. It was really cool just to be there and like talking to people who I know and just talking about the game. And I got to talk to Charlie, and that was nice too. And yeah, it was a great time. Press pass, man.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
I like how in some of Ryan, some of your pictures, you turned your press pass around and it looks like you're wearing like a choker necklace, like that you got it Hot Topic or something.
I did not turn my press pass around. I was jumping up and down on breaks and skies and everything that, it just
off. You can't keep track.
I was living in the moment because I would say the difference between my press or just like my experience last night, Joe, is like, as soon as I got to the field, the coach and who like gave me the pass was just like, yeah, you could be on the field like the whole time if you want. And I was just like, fuck yeah.
That's sick. That's so sick.
I was talking, like so many people like came up to me and was just like, love what you're doing. Like one of the owners of the summit was like, hey, you're that ringer right? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, and we just like talked like during the game and stuff. People came up and
that happened with me too. A bunch of people either saw the shirt or I was like talking to, Ryan or Ben, and they'd be like, oh, this is the guy, like you did the interview, like on his podcast, you're the podcast guy. Mm-hmm. Like a bunch of people were like, yeah, I love your podcast. I talked to the head athletic trainer of the Empire. His name's Ryan. I actually got his contact because he could be a fun person to talk to during the off season. He was super chill. He said he was on the train listening to our Yacht and Oscar interview and just like laughing so hard out loud. And like, it was just cool. It was cool that people recognized at least like the logo and like what we're doing. It's crazy. And Matt said he already told Commissioner Hall that he should expect a more relaxed interview than he's used to. So I think that's a green light for us.
Sweet.
Wow. I guess you heard it here first. Yeah. The last thing I want to say is, I'm seething with envy. You guys are literally living the dream. Maybe I'll, I got some free Aviators tickets. I got a rain check on. So, maybe I need to take advantage of that. But, if you've listened to this point, first of all, thank you. We super appreciate it. Throw us a like, throw us a subscribe. But I think more importantly, I think the biggest thing you can do is like tell somebody about it, like a friend, be like, yo, what's up? I found this cool Frisbee podcast. Someone who you think might be interested, share it to a friend. And it helps what we do. And we want to keep growing. And I think I've finally seen like just in such a short amount of time, the potential of like the type of stuff we can do, and I'm interested to see where it goes. So, and it's been super fun. So thanks to, if you're listening right now, man, super appreciate it. But
yeah. All right. Well, this has been another episode of I'm Open. Those Empire guys talk our ears off and then they're 2 hours long, but it was a good
times though.
But they're open.
All right.